Not the groundskeeper who passed every morning. Not the pastor whose church sat just beyond the iron fence. Not the woman at the flower stall on Birch Road who sold her wildflowers every Saturday for the coins she'd saved from her lunch money. For almost a year, she had come alone. Always on Saturday mornings, always with flowers, always to the same stone minus grey and weathered, tucked under an old oak at the far edge of Millfield Cemetery, a stone that no one else ever visited. She would kneel, place the flowers gently against the base, and sit for a little while in the quiet. Then she would stand, brush the grass from her knees, and walk back the way she came. She never told anyone why. Nobody thought to ask. Her name was Nora. She was 7 years old, gap-toothed, and serious in the way that children sometimes are when they have seen more than their years should hold. She lived with her grandmother, Mrs. Addy, 3 streets from the cemetery. Her mother had left when Nora was 4. Her father worked long hours on a construction crew, 2 towns over, and came home too tired for much beyond dinner and sleep. Mrs. Addy did her best, but the house was quiet in ways that a 7-year-old feels even if she can't name them. The grave had found her by accident, the way important things often do. One Saturday, nearly a year ago, Nora had wandered deeper into the cemetery than usual, following a butterfly minus the way 7-year-olds follow things minus, and had stopped in front of a stone. So plain and unattended that it looked almost embarrassed to be there. No flowers, no photograph, no small flag or ribbon, just a name, a date, and 2 words carved beneath, "Ride Free." She had stood there for a long moment. Then she had gone back to the flower stall and spent every coin in her pocket. If you believe that kindness doesn't need a reason, minus that sometimes a child's quiet act of love can reach further than they will ever know, minus please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to believe in goodness today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Because what happened the Saturday the bikers followed her is something none of them will ever be able to explain. The Iron Road Brotherhood had their regular Saturday morning route. It took them past Millfield Cemetery every week without fail, minus a ritual that had started years ago for reasons nobody in the club discussed openly anymore. It was Dutch who first noticed her. 3 Saturdays in a row, he had seen same small figure walking through the iron gates, wildflowers in hand, heading toward the far oak. He said nothing the first time, or the second. The 3rd Saturday he mentioned it to Cole, almost as an afterthought, the way you mention something that has been sitting in the corner of your mind without your permission. "There is a little girl," he said, "goes in every week, always flowers, always the same spot." Cole glanced toward the gates as they rode past. He caught only a glimpse, minus a small figure in a yellow raincoat, kneeling in the distance under the far oak. Something shifted in his chest. He couldn't have said what or why. The following Saturday, 4 of them parked their bikes quietly on the road outside the cemetery gates and went in on foot. No engines, no leather creaking loudly. Just 4 big men walking softly through the morning grass, keeping their distance watching. Nora didn't notice them. She never looked back. She walked her usual path, turned left at the oak, and knelt at the grey stone. She arranged the wildflowers carefully, minus not just dropped them, but arranged them, the way someone would for a person they knew and loved. She smoothed a leaf from the top of the stone with her small palm. She sat quietly for a moment, her lips moving slightly as if she were saying something too soft for the world to hear. Then she stood, brushed her knees, and walked away. The 4 men stood motionless among the headstones, watching her go. And then, slowly, they turned. Toward the grey stone she had left. Cole reached the stone first. He read the name. He read it once. Then again, slower, as if the letters might rearrange themselves into something he could accept more easily. They didn't. Joseph Hawk Merritt, 1961-2019. Ride Free. The wildflowers sat at the base of the stone, bright and small and impossibly cheerful against the grey. Dutch had stopped walking. He stood 3 feet back, hat in his hands, not saying anything. Behind him, Ray had turned away. Completely, his shoulders tight, his head down. Hawk had been their brother, not a blood brother, minus, though, to these men the difference barely existed. He had ridden with the Iron Road Brotherhood, for 22 years. He had been the loudest laugh at every gathering, the first man to show up when anyone needed help, and the last to leave any time someone was hurting. He had died of a heart attack on a Tuesday morning in November 2019, alone in his apartment, his boots still by the door. He had no wife, no children, no family that came to the funeral except the club. They had visited his grave every year on the anniversary of his death, but the weeks between minus the ordinary Saturdays, the quiet ones, minus those had passed without flowers, without anyone, until a 7-year-old girl who didn't know his name had decided he looked lonely. Cole found her at the flower stall on Birch Road, counting coins into the seller's palm with the focused concentration of someone conducting serious business. He crouched down to her level. She looked at him without flinching, minus the way children look at large things they have decided are not threatening. "The man under that oak," Cole said carefully. "The one you bring flowers to, did you know him?" Nora shook her head. "Then why?" She thought about it with the seriousness it deserved. "Because his stone looked like it never had anyone," she said simply, "and that seemed like a sad way to be remembered." Cole didn't answer for a moment. He looked at the coins still in her palm, minus saved from lunch money, week after week, to buy flowers for a stranger. "His name was Hawk," he said finally. "He was our brother, and he would have loved you." Nora considered this. "Does he have enough people now?" she asked. Cole's jaw tightened. He nodded once. "Yes, sweetheart," he said quietly. "He does now. The Iron Road Brotherhood did not adopt Hawk's grave. They already owned it, in the way that grief owns the things it touches. What they adopted was Nora, not formally minus, not with papers or ceremonies. In the way that matters more, they showed up. The following Saturday, 4 motorcycles were parked outside the cemetery gates when Nora arrived. Dutch held the flowers while she arranged them. Ray had brought a small solar lantern to leave beside the stone, so it wouldn't look dark on winter evenings. Cole had found a photograph, minus Hawk grinning on his bike, squinting into the sun minus, and had it laminated so the weather couldn't take it. Nora approved of all of it. She supervised with the quiet authority of someone who had been doing this alone for a long time, and was glad, finally, to have help. They learned about her life in the slow way you learn things from children, minus in small pieces, offered casually, when trust has been built without being asked for. They learned about her father's long hours and her grandmother's tired hands, and the way the house got very quiet sometimes in the evenings. They didn't make a production of what came next. They simply began to appear minus at the grandmother's door with groceries, at the school fundraiser nobody else showed up to, at the Christmas pageant in the back row. Enormous men in leather jackets holding paper programs with surprising delicacy. Mrs. Addie, who had been quietly exhausted for years, cried the first time she opened the door to find 4 bikers on her porch with a week's worth of food and absolutely no expectation of anything in return. "You don't even know us," she said. "We know Nora," Cole said. "That's enough." On the first anniversary of the day they followed her, the entire Iron Road Brotherhood rode to Millfield Cemetery together. 14 bikes, 14 men, and 1 small girl in a yellow raincoat walking ahead of them through the gates, wildflowers in both arms, leading the way to a stone that didn't look lonely anymore. Hawk's grave had flowers every single week now. It had a photograph and a lantern and a small handmade card tucked against the base that Nora had written herself in her careful 7-year-old handwriting. "You have people now. We won't forget." Cole stood at the back of the group, watching her arrange the flowers with the same focused care she had always used, minus the same as the very first Saturday, when no one was watching and she hadn't needed anyone to be. Dutch appeared beside him. She knew him better than most people who actually did, Dutch said quietly. Cole didn't answer. He just watched Nora smooth a leaf from the top of the stone with her small palm, the same way she always had. Some things don't need explaining. They just need witnessing. If this story reminded you that kindness doesn't need a reason, minus that a child with a handful of wildflowers can heal something in people who didn't know they were still broken, minus please take a moment. Like this video, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Before you go, tell us in the comments, is there someone you remember who deserved more? Flowers than the world gave them. Leave their name. Let this be the place where nobody is forgotten, because somewhere in Millfield Cemetery, under an old oak, a grey stone reads, "Ride free." And every Saturday morning, without fail, it has flowers.